All right, let's go ahead and get started. Hello, everyone. I am Ryan Ross. I'm the marketing director at SDSU's Fowler College of Business. And I want to welcome everybody to our MBA alumni panel, Ask Us Anything. So I think the purpose of our discussion today is to give anyone considering our MBA program an opportunity to hear directly from people that have already been through the program. We understand that choosing an MBA program is a major life decision and that there's a lot that goes into that. And that you want to make sure it's the right fit for you, personally and professionally. So we hope that hearing different perspectives and the stories of our alumni panel members that are with us will help you in your decision-making process. We do have the Q&A feature enabled in our Zoom discussion. So if you do have any questions for our panel members or any questions about the program in general, we do encourage you to submit those through the Q&A, and we'll be monitoring that throughout the discussion. So with that being said, let's go ahead and kick things off. I want to start by having each panel member introduce themselves. So they'll tell you a little bit about themselves. If each of you could also include, because I think this will be beneficial for the audience just to get to know each of you a little bit, what your undergraduate major was, the length of time it took you to complete our MBA program, and then when you graduated with your MBA degree, if you can remember those three things, as well as any other information around your background. So, with that being said, Kayla, do you want to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah. So, hi, my name is Kayla Tatamy. I just recently graduated from the MBA program in December. It took me 2.5 years to finish, and a majority of the time I was working full time on top of going to school. For my undergrad, I went to Gonzaga University, where I also got a business administration, concentration in marketing. And then for my MBA, my emphasis was management and marketing. So just a little bit about me is I've been working in marketing for about 8 years, and I've worked in tech, nonprofit, and other marketing agencies. So looking forward to telling you all about the MBA program.
Great. So, Sophia, you want to go next?
Hi, everyone. My name is Sophia. I did my undergrad at San Jose State University and did a BS degree in business administration with a concentration in marketing. And it took me about 3.5 years roughly to finish my MBA program. Um, and sorry, what was the last question? Uh, Ryan,
When you graduated
when I
with,
graduated, great.
yeah, with for your
I
MBA.
graduated last fall of 2024. Um, Similar to Kayla, I've been in the business world for about 6 years, going on 7, specifically in the billboard industry. So I've worked for, at this point, 2 different billboard companies. So I have a lot of experience in that zone. Yeah.
Great. Stephen?
Hey everyone, Stephen Tomich. Went to San Diego State for my undergrad in criminal justice, totally unrelated to business. Graduated back in 2013, then worked 9 years in retail and operations. In 2021, decided to go back to grad school for the MBA back at SDSU. Took about 3 years to finish. Just graduated in May of last year, 2024. And yeah, just really enjoyed the program and happy to answer any questions.
Great. So first question for you guys to get us started. What would you say motivated you to pursue an MBA? And then why did you end up choosing this program at SDSU? Obviously, there's a lot of other MBA programs out there as well. ultimately what led you to SDSU and the Fowler College of Business. And whoever wants to take that first and jump in. Again, this discussion is very much intended to be conversational and informal. So yeah, feel free to jump in.
I'll go first. So I chose SDSU based on location. It's actually very close to where I live. And it's literally right next to my workplace. So it made it very convenient for me to pursue a full-time career while also going to school. Um, in addition to location, I would also say the program really attracted me, specifically for marketing. I really reviewed the classes and what would be offered, and that was a great plus for me. Um, what made me pursue my MBA was during 2021, 2020, I was actually laid off from my previous position due to the pandemic. Our business was doing really poorly, um, and I really needed a change in my career, and I wanted to advance my career. Um, so I was looking into programs and I had thought about it actually for years. And this was the perfect opportunity for me to pursue that. Um, so yeah, that's why I was here.
I guess I can go next. So yeah, I chose SDSU for similar reasons to Sophia. The location. I'm born and raised in San Diego, lived here my whole life, planning to live here my entire life. And so just the network it provides, every company I've ever worked for in San Diego has SDSU alumni working there, and they love to work with other SDSU alumni. So if you hope to get a job in San Diego after, this is a really great program. I did research before I started the MBA program and determined this is the best MBA program in San Diego. And I know multiple people who have graduated from this and they've all landed great jobs. And so that also kind of, um, piqued my interest in the program. And yeah, really happy I did it. Another reason was because SDSU is very flexible in allowing you to do a part-time MBA or full-time, and even semester to semester during the course of the MBA, you're allowed to change that, which some programs don't. You have to either do the full thing part-time or the full thing full-time. And so I like that flexibility because I did plan to work full-time during the entire program, which I ended up doing. So it was really nice that I could do it part-time, having classes in the evening, and then work full time during the day.
So I picked SDSU for the same reasons Sophia and Stephen have said, as far as especially location, but especially I looked at the other SDSU programs as well, and I saw how, based experience of how supportive the teachers were. I even ended up missing one of my finals because I had a work trip, but the professor worked with me, and not every program are, flexible while you're working full time and things like that. So that was one of the major reasons. And I wanted to get my MBA just to kind of further my technical skills in my career. And I feel like I learned a lot of that at SDSU.
Great. So I want to follow up on a couple of comments that I heard from all of you around flexibility. And I think it kind of gets at that, the work-life balance, right? And how this program fits within everything else that each of us have going on in our lives, right? Because I think for a lot of people that are considering the program, it's kind of the question of, hey, am I going to be able to do this? Am I going to have any sort of a life, a social life, outside of, this program, and especially if you're working full time, like a couple of you were. So I would love to have you all expand upon sort of how you managed all that and how this program fit within everything else that you had going on at the time.
Yeah, I guess I could go. So when I started, I was working full time, And I knew that I wanted to do this MBA to change careers, but I wanted to do it like during the MBA and then keep working full time. And so I was able to, with the flexibility of the program, I was able to have all my classes at 4 p.m. or later. So I would get to work like 6:30 a.m., work till about 3:30, and then go to class at 4 o'clock, sometimes all the way till 9:40. Uh, and I just love that there's the possibility to do that because not all programs have that flexibility. And it just really worked for my schedule. I was still able to have a social life, even though I was working full time and going to school part time, just by having really good time management. And I think that going to the program, I had like decent time management, but by the end of it, I was like on point. Like I knew like every hour of my day what I'm going to do. And so I think that one great thing about the program is it will force you to have good time management.
Kayla, Sophia, you guys want to jump in on that question too?
Go ahead, Caleb.
We both unmuted at the same time. So I was gonna say, yeah, I think that as far as the flexibility was a good aspect since my job was extremely demanding. So I think in general, time management, and then because you have a lot of other people in the program who are also working full time, you guys kind of have to like figure out exactly what schedule is going to work for everyone because some people might be working full time. Not everybody works full time who does the program. And I think one of the important things is just making sure that if, you, as far as work-life balance, if, hey, this is like too much, I might need an extension. Some teachers will give you an extension, whether you talk to them. If you can't make office hours for something, your professor will probably meet with you outside of office hours. So I think that as far as work-life balance, even if it's, hey, work is crazy, I don't think I can do this, like I think that there's just definitely like a lot of flexibility there with like even just your teachers of how they can support you because they do want everyone to succeed. So work-life balance, I would still have life with it, but I do think that you have to be very clear of what you need to get done because there is a lot on your plate.
Yeah, and for me, I broke up my studies. So when I first started, I was going to school full time. And that's actually when I didn't have a full-time job. So I was full-time student just doing that alone. And honestly, it was like a full-time job at the time. Um, and then a few months in, I got a job on campus. So I was doing that part-time for a little while. And then furthermore, I was doing school as well full-time. And then I slowly integrated in full-time work while doing part-time school. So my role with my studies changed and evolved over time. And each one presented its own um, difficulties, but I definitely agree with everyone here that time management was the biggest thing that contributed to success. So yeah, just really knowing when you're meeting with group members, what time of day works best for everybody. Like everyone has a different schedule. It's really important to communicate that. Um, yeah.
Great. Let's transition a little bit and start talking more specifically about what the program entails and the faculty and the professors that you all learned from. I know in connecting with each of you before the meeting, you all talked about how accessible our faculty were, how great they were to learn from, and how I think in a lot of cases. You all are still connected to some of the professors that whose classes you were in, right? So I'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I think that is kind of what sets SDSU apart is the faculty because I feel they very much care and are very devoted for you to have success. And I think for me, I even had the opportunity to TA for one of the professors my last semester, which I really enjoyed that aspect. Just because I had taken the class and being a TA, that was a really great experience. But I definitely think that there's a ton of different classes, and since it's such a mix of the different electives you take and things, so I feel like you get kind of like a diversity variety of different teachers and that skill set. So yeah, I think that's what was my favorite part of the program.
For me, I follow a few of my previous instructors on LinkedIn and would like to keep them as professional contacts. I actually recently wrote one of my previous instructors an email just to follow up and see how they're doing and how their students are going and everything. So it's really always really great to keep that open door because you never know like how that connection is going to make with your current job. Maybe there's like um a business opportunity there, so it's always good to keep those doors open. Um, but yeah, a lot of my instructors really challenged me and thinking in innovative ways, thinking about technology, operations management. Those were all really key things that I took away from the program, and I'm seeing it evolve in my current position. So
Were there, sorry, you want to respond to that one as well, Stephen, before I jump to the next question?
Yeah, just like Kayla and Sophia mentioned, the professors at the SCCU MBA program were amazing. And one thing I think that differentiates them is they're really willing to go out of their way to help you succeed. I mean, if you let them know, hey, I really have some questions before this midterm, but I'm not available this week. I've even had professors that are willing to meet on the weekends at coffee shop or at SDSU. And so they really want you to succeed. None of them want you to fail at all. And so that was something that I really appreciated.
Were there any specific courses, projects, experiences that stood out to each of you? I know we as a college talk a lot about the fact that our MBA students get to work on real world, hands-on projects, right, that are really affecting um, the world and the business world today. I'd love to hear maybe a couple examples or things that stood out to each of you in terms of, projects or other classes that you got to experience.
I love this question. Um, so I have a few courses. So I mentioned operations management earlier. We had a really great professor for one of our like key courses in the core category. And every week we would have to read news articles on how like the chip industry is evolving, and offshoring and nearshoring and just learning all about that and writing papers. And I just found that fascinating. And honestly, like I said, up to today, even with the new current events that are going on in today's society, I'm finding how that's benefiting my current role. I'm thinking ahead, like, what are we going to do here as a business? How is this affecting us with the tariffs and everything? So, that was one course. I also took a marketing elective where we had to create like an innovative product. And me and my group, we were all from different countries, which was really fascinating. I love the diversity at this university. Um, and we were designing a application and utilizing like facial recognition and all sorts of cool things. So that was really fun. That really challenged me to think outside the box. Um, and then another course I was learning about technology, the simulation, things like that. And it really challenged my thinking on uh, business and how it's moving forward.
Yeah, there's a lot of great classes that come to mind. I think one class that is part of the kind of like the general one that everyone takes is organizational behavior. Gabby is a fantastic teacher, and I felt like that's a class where you learn a lot about yourself and about how organizations work. And I think it was definitely a lot of real life scenarios that you can see in the workplace of, oh, this is why these things happen. But I think you can just learn a lot about yourself and how you work and like what works best for you that you can like put into practice through your work. I also really liked a class I took called World Business Environment, where there was a current company who wanted to expand overseas in Japan and basically put together a business plan of how they would expand, what's the best marketing activities to do, looking at the different tariffs and different things of how can we do the factory there? How will we be able to supply it? So it definitely challenged me in a lot of ways to learn with that. And then I also had another class where you created an innovative product, as well as Sophia. And that was a really great marketing class that I highly recommend. Product Innovation Management with Paula Peters is probably one of my favorite classes I've taken because it definitely throughout the semester you work on this project the entire time. So you're really able to strengthen exactly what this project idea was that, hey, maybe this is something I actually want to do. So I think there's a lot of really great classes where you're actually not just reading from your book, you're really making those connections of, different project ideas or even consulting. So it's really special.
Yeah, and then like they mentioned, the marketing classes where you get to create an actual product and do a full marketing plan of from product innovation all the way till development and releasing the product and marketing it. It was really great. I feel like a lot of these products you could almost actually like create a company. I know in the past, some MBA students have taken these projects in their classes and actually started like small businesses from them. So I thought that was really cool.
So I'm going to bring in a question from the audience here. Stephen, this one is mostly directed at you. It sounds like there's somebody who actually has very similar background and experience to you. So they say that they've got their undergrad degree in criminal justice, but they want to pursue an MBA for career advancement in the future. How would you say learning a whole new curriculum was? Had you taken business classes before, and overall, how was that adjustment?
Yeah, so in 2010, right out of high school, when I started at San Diego State, I was a business major for 1 year, but then I didn't enjoy it so much, and so I switched my major to criminal justice, ended up graduating with that a couple years later, and then didn't work in that field much. Mainly did retail and operations for 8, 9 years after that, until COVID hit, and then I started researching MBA programs, found SDSU, and decided like I want to go all in on this while working full time and switch my career to something related to supply chain because I know during 2020 everyone was talking about supply chains and it was like a buzzword and I'm like okay this is going to be a hot field for decades to come like without supply chains you're not getting any products and so that's why I'm like, I'm going to go into that. Even though I don't know too much about it, I already looked at the course catalog, saw there were some classes in that looked interesting. And I'm like, I'm going to go full in. And so that really, really worked out great. And I was able to transition from a career outside of the business world into a career in the business world in what I wanted, supply chain management. After my first summer of the program, when I was able to land a supply chain internship that then led to a full-time job that fall, which then led to um, a few offers when I graduated that led to my current position I'm in right now at my current company. And so I wouldn't have been able to do any of that at all without the SDSU MBA program. There's no way. Like that's most of what I talked about in all the interviews. My MBA program, the classes I'm in, what I'm learning, and employers love it. They absolutely love that you're getting a wide knowledge of different business topics.
So I want to follow up on that question because it leads into a question that I think a lot of prospective students probably have, and Kayla, Sophia, would love to get your thoughts on this. Knowing that the MBA requires you to take a variety of different courses, right? And sometimes that means um, taking on and learning about subject matters that maybe we didn't have a whole lot of experience with coming in, whether that's, the math and finance stuff or business analytics or coding, whatever it is. I know that can be intimidating for some folks when they're contemplating, hey, is this something that I'm going to be able to do and actually be successful in? So, Kayla, Sophia, how did you experience that? And if so, how did you overcome kind of a lack of experience maybe in certain subject matters?
Yeah, so even though I do have like a marketing background for my undergrad, I did not have experience in coding. So I think with that class, it's business analytics. I think the really great thing about the program is also kind of like the different people that are in your classes, because you might have friends in different classes where, hey, this is my strong suit. So I know in that class, it was a lot of teamwork for me because it really was learning something that I didn't have a lot of knowledge of. So I ended up being very beneficial as far as like learning it, but it was pretty intimidating at first of how do I use R? Like, how do I do this a homework assignment? I don't really know where to start. So I think what is nice is you definitely have very supportive peers in the program that will want to help you, maybe do study groups and all obviously the teacher as well. She had office hours set aside as well. So I think that was, even though it was something out of my comfort zone, it was something where I learned, I was successful, but it did take, a lot more studying, a lot more support from other peers to get through it as well.
So I actually had a similar experience with the coding class as well. It was my first time doing anything like that. But that being said, there were materials that were handed out from the instructor that we were able to review. I spent a lot of time reading that and going through it to try to understand it. I would do study groups each week as well with my group, and we would work together to create different scripts that we had to do for our assignments. And just to understand like a basic of the course. Also, I would say probably the finance and accounting were a little challenging for me, but once again, I took my time, had study groups, did a lot of reading, just to get my skill set up.
Stephen, you want to add on anything from your perspective around any classes, subjects that were a little outside of your comfort zone coming in?
I would say most of them because I hadn't been in school for about 8 years since undergrad. And so everything was new, and I hadn't even been to any college class in 8 years. And so I really had to get back in the mentality of like allotting time during my week to study, to do homework and projects, like meet up with my groups for group work. And I think that it really was like a crash course in time management, like I mentioned before. And then and then I'd say, yeah, some of the accounting, finance, like business analytics classes were pretty tricky, especially since I had been out of school for a while, and even when I was in school, like criminal justice major, didn't really like learn any of that stuff. And I didn't remember anything from my 1 year of business courses like a decade earlier. And so I think, like Sophia and Kayla mentioned, there are a lot of students in the class that might have more knowledge in those topics. I know in my finance class, there were like a good 5 or 6 folks who actually worked in the finance industry. And so um, they're the other students were very willing to help me out. And, if I had any questions with anything, I didn't feel like going to the professor, they would definitely help me out, especially like a lot of the MBA is group work, right? So if you have like one person in your project who is in that field or has some knowledge in that, that makes the whole difference.
Great. Scanning the Q&A here for some other questions. Um, about how many hours of coursework outside of class time would you say is required to stay on track?
I would
Anybody?
I'd say it's very depending on the class. I had some classes that I could probably do like a couple hours a week on and I'd be fine. And then other classes where I'm studying like 10 plus hours a week just for that class, especially like before the midterms and finals. Maybe not the whole semester, but there were definitely some like crunch times during the program. But I think it's very class specific. There's definitely some like electives and some other classes where it's not a ton of hours outside of class.
Um, we were talking about skill set. Sorry, Sophia, do you want to go back to that last one?
Oh, I was just going to agree with Stephen. It really depends on the workload of the course. Like if you do have group work you have to coordinate that with your group mates, and sometimes it might take a little longer. Whereas if you're just writing a paper on your own, it'll go quicker. If you have an exam, you might need a few hours to study for a few days. So yeah, it just varies.
Can you all talk more about, so we've been talking about the skill set that you develop in the program, right? And I think for a lot of people, they may not know what industry they're going to be in long term. So maybe there are doubts or questions around, hey, is the MBA, like, is this really going to help me in my particular industry? Could you all expand a little bit upon how some of the skills that you developed, and especially I think of like the soft skills, right? Just in terms of communication, negotiating, working with teams. If from your perspective you feel like that's going to help you regardless of what twist and turn your career may take at some point down the road.
Um, I definitely think, I mean, I've already been a patient person, but this definitely enhanced that a little bit more for me. Um, whether it's, working with different types of instructors or group mates or just different assignments, even. It's just giving yourself the leeway to understand everything and work with what you have. Um, I've been dealt with a lot of different situations at work where we don't know what the outcome is going to be, but it's still worth it to try something new. And if it doesn't stick, then that's okay. Just move on to the next item. Um, I'm dealing with that right now, trying to plan and going to some different conferences throughout the year. Not everything is going to resonate with our account executives. So it's just having a lot of patience and um, understanding your audience.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Sophia. I think especially a lot with like communication skills because I think in a lot of your classes, like you have people from all different backgrounds, and I think that you have to kind of make sure that everybody is going for the same goal, that everybody's feeling heard. And I think that in organizational behavior, you kind of learn about personality types and things where I feel like I've directly used that as far as in the workplace and places like that. So I think that, there are a lot of different skills there that you learn in each of your classes where I feel like you can put it into practice, not only in like your group work for school, but also in the workplace of, oh, remember I learned this in this class and this is how this is working. So I do think that they intersect a lot of the different skills that you learn that you'll use throughout your career, but also probably just even in your personal life as well.
I think for me, one thing that the program really instilled in me is to think strategically, not just the class that is called strategic thinking, which was one of my favorite classes in the MBA program, but every class really you learn to you learn to think strategically. How is this going to help the business, not just for the short term, but for the long term? What are the impacts of the work you do at your business? How can you make those impacts greater in a positive manner? And so I think that going into this, never having worked like specifically in the business or corporate world, it really prepared me well for that. And on a daily basis at work, I'm finding myself using like terms and ideas that I gained during the MBA program.
Let's go back to talking about the kind of the SDSU network and the value of that and the alumni connection. Stephen, you mentioned earlier how that came up regularly in conversations that you know that you had or interviews when you were going through those. Um, what else can you all share with the audience just in terms of how far that reaches, having that SDSU degree and being part of, you know, the Aztec network, how that has benefited you as alumni from this program?
I think it's really helped, especially if you want to work after grad school in San Diego, because like I mentioned earlier, every single company I've ever worked for, even back in retail, now in my current role in supply chain management, there are tons of people who I work with who went to San Diego State, either for business or other programs, and they love hiring other alumni. It's like a common bond you have with someone, even if you've never met. Like you both are Aztecs for life. And so I think that's huge in networking. And then the MBA program also provides like a ton of awesome networking events. I know there's ones that are at the bowling alley that's at SDSU. There's some that like are they meet up at breweries. There I've been to so many networking events like during the program and even I've gone to a couple after it ended that were really great that SDSU like facilitated. And I think they really helped out a lot. I met a lot of really awesome people in the business world, in many different fields of business, and it definitely helped out.
Yeah, I definitely agree with Steven. There especially was like a ton of different events on campus. Also, one thing that they have is like every semester they have like a mentoring program that you can sign up for. So you kind of go on like a portal and you can actually like filter by like industry or different things like that, and you can get matched up with a different person every semester. I thought that was just a really cool thing to be able to kind of look for, and then basically you match with them and then you get to talk to them. And I used to talk to my mentor a lot, so I feel like that's super nice that SDSU has that. Additionally, the career center is very very helpful. I even Greg, he was once somebody very helpful in the career center as far as like introducing you to different people at different companies that you're interested in. I even ended up joining a nonprofit board due to his connections. So I think that there are a lot of great services there on top of the alumni program as well. So you can continue kind of networking there.
And for me, I have noticed that at quite a few different events I've been to for my work, actually, there have been SDSU people recognized there. So whether they're winning an award or um, they have their logo there, you see it everywhere all over town, and it's just so great having that connection, and you can root for your fellow Aztec. Um, I also agree with the Career Center. I think that's a very useful tool that you can utilize while you're here if you need work or if you're looking to brainstorm ideas. Um, and yeah, thank you.
Question from the audience here. Based on your experiences in the program, would you recommend getting some full-time work under your belt after graduating college first, or going directly into it after graduation? And I think we've had people that have done both, right? But from your all's perspective, how would you respond to that?
Um, in my opinion, I would say it's important to have a solid foundation working first. That way you can understand where you need to fill in the holes and gaps in what you currently know. That's definitely something that I personally experienced. I would see different situations while I was working in my first job, and I just wouldn't know how to handle it. I just simply didn't have that extra knowledge that I really needed at the time. But, you know, going through that experience made me realize, hey, I actually really do need an MBA. I would like to pursue this. Um, so yeah, I think it's helpful to have some experience first.
Kayla,
Yeah,
you.
I would say that I just my personal experience, I had work experience before going to it, and it kind of helped because then I was able to kind of reflect on those past situations like in work, but also kind of apply it to the work I was doing as well. So I would say you don't have to, but I think that it can be very beneficial to have some kind of work experience to be able to kind of like reflect to it and kind of see different things there.
Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely can't hurt. It definitely helps, but it's not mandatory. I knew a lot of people doing the MBA program at the same time as me that were straight out of undergrad. Like a lot of them went to SDSU or some went to other colleges and transferred here after undergrad. And so um, plenty of them, I'm sure, succeeded fine without any work experience. Even better, like if you can get some, but I would say it's not mandatory, but it only helps. It only helps.
And that, just as a quick add on, it might be informative for some of the audience members just to hear. I mean, obviously they're hearing from you and they know what your experience level coming into the program was, but it might be interesting just to hear you all describe, broadly the range of different ages and experience levels of your classmates in the program, because my guess is that um, that ran probably a pretty big range in terms of again what people came into the program with.
Yeah, there was definitely a lot of variety as far as the students. I had someone who had just recently graduated in a ton of my classes, but then I had someone who had decided to go back to get their MBA who was in like the, almost 50 range. So I think the good thing is you really kind of get that experience with a lot of different people from a lot of different backgrounds, whether they have work experience, they have some, or they have a lot, and they're just kind of coming back to get that skill set. So I would say the ages definitely ranged as far as who was in my classes um, just throughout the program.
Yeah, so I would say well, I knew someone who was like 20 years old in the program who already had one master's and was getting their second. And then I knew another person who is in their mid 60s. And so there's a huge range of people that bring a lot of great experience to the program, from a lot of different backgrounds. I've seen people in the program um, from pretty much every single major I could think of to every background. People who went to college outside the US, in the US, on the East Coast, um, in Midwest, everywhere. So that was one great thing about the program. You got me a lot of people with a lot of different experiences. And I started the program myself when I would say 20, I think 29. Yeah, around 29. And so I would say pretty much if you're thinking about an MBA, the best time to do it is probably now because if you keep thinking another few years, then you could have already finished it by then.
Good advice.
And then similar for me, I've had people that have just gotten out of their undergrad and started the program and all the way up into 50s, maybe older. As well as there's been a lot of parents too, doing full-time work, parenting, and then also doing the program. People who've worked part-time, full-time, like they said, like people from different backgrounds, whether it was different undergrad degrees or, they were exchange students, from Europe or different countries. Um, so yeah, there was quite the range. Yeah.
I'm going to throw a couple general questions at you guys, and you can answer them however you see fit. But looking back, what do you wish you would have known coming into the program that you know now?
Um, I I thought that I was like, oh, I'm very organized, but I think when you are working and going to school, or even if you're just going to school, I really had to do a lot better job on time management as far as blocking off my schedule for every half hour, because there is just a lot of things that end up due, especially during midterms and finals. Like it definitely is something where um just the importance of time management, I feel like I did learn and I was able to adjust. But I think that you know, I like a lot of assignments take a lot longer than you think they might, depending on what class you're in, or since people are either working or not working as far as the group dynamics, sometimes it is hard to find a time that works for everyone. It might be only one day a week you can meet at like 8 o'clock at night or something like that. So I think being able to know that you're going to have to be like super flexible on top of like all the different group work, just to make sure you get everything done.
Yeah, I would agree. For me also, it's time management. That was actually something that I struggled with prior to the program. So I definitely think that I've gained that soft skill from going through this program and improving that. And I even see it now with my own work and projects that I'm doing. So yeah, it's just important to, keep a calendar, whether it's on paper or digitally, and have everything down to the half hour. Like Kayla said, it's really important, especially with all these assignments.
Yeah, just like they said, time management. Uh, Nothing much more to add. Time management was extremely key.
We've we've talked about this kind of throughout the discussion, but is there anything else that you would say to students coming into the program around how they can make the most of their time? What would you encourage them to do in term maybe different areas to get involved with or different resources that they can take advantage of? We've talked about our career center and some of the mentoring, which are all really great resources that the college makes available. But anything else to add that you would recommend that students um, take advantage of while they're here?
Um, so while I was there were quite a few fun events that we got to network with other students in our program and also like the greater university, which is not something we really, as grad students, have the opportunity to do. So definitely take advantage of any like social events or anything to do with your program that they're doing outside of studies. That way you could get to know your fellow students. And then also utilize your academic advisors. They're really knowledgeable and can help guide you throughout your whole program. That was really helpful for me.
So doing a quick time check here, we've got 5 to 10 minutes remaining. So if anyone else from the audience, I do see a couple questions here that we will get to, but now is the time. If you have any remaining questions, or based on what you've heard from our panelists, if maybe it has led to a question that you didn't have coming into the panel. So feel free to submit those now. Kayla, Stephen, anything going back to that last question, anything you wanted to add there in terms of resources that we haven't covered already?
Yeah. I would say at the library, there's a lot of study rooms that you can rent. And I feel like a lot of people don't take advantage of that. So you can get individual study rooms or you can get group study rooms. So that might be nice if you have like a group project that you all want to practice for like a presentation or something like that. So there's definitely a lot of different resources on top of studying on campus if you really kind of need quieter time while you're studying. And then just to get to know your teachers because they are here to help you and they really do want you to learn. So I think like introducing yourself and actually really getting to know them. So it's something where, if you need help with something, it's not scary to be like, hey, I'm in your class. So really taking advantage of the different things and experiences like with your teachers as well.
Yeah, kind of off what they said, really like take advantage of all the resources. Like not just the career center and studying in the library. Those are great, but like also all these networking events, all there's panels you can go to. There's so many awesome things you can go to. I firmly believe that this program, like what you put in is what you get out. So you can you can skate by and like barely pass with like B's or C's, and then just finish the program and not think twice about it. Or you can like really try to go to as many events as you can, like really put in good effort into your classes, get to know your professors, get to know all the different topics. And I think that that would be a lot better, like bang for your buck. Like then you're really getting your tuition's worth um, if you're actually like putting a lot of effort into it. And so that's what I would recommend. Like if you want to get the most out of the program, put in the most.
One thing that I almost forgot to ask about, but again, may be beneficial for certain people in the audience, is around the actual application process. So I think we've got people in the meeting, some of whom have already submitted their application, and then we've got other people that are maybe contemplating and they're on the fence as to, whether or not this is something that they really want to do. But as far as the actual application process, I know that can take some time to get through, right? And all of the documents that are required as part of that. Any tips or pointers for the people out there as to how each of you navigated the actual application and all of the documents required?
I would say start your application process early, especially for specific things like letters of recommendation, because you don't know how long that person is going to take to submit the letter. And sometimes they don't submit it at all, and then you have to find someone else. So definitely have like a backup plan on who you're going to utilize for that. And then for the essays, I would just say take your time with that. Really think about what you want to do and what your goals are. And write it down to the best of your ability and just be yourself. That's really the most important thing. Um, yeah.
I'm looking at the Q&A here. I think a lot of these we have answered. How is it going back to the university full time after working and being away from family? Any additional thoughts on that one?
I mean, it's similar to undergrad. Like, if your family's in San Diego, you're not really away from them. But if they're not, then you'd still be away from them in undergrad. I feel like it was similar to that. And there's plenty of weeks off. Like you get like 3 months off for the summer, a month and a half off for winter break, like a week off for Thanksgiving, a week off in the spring. So there's plenty of opportunities to go visit family during the semester, during these breaks, as well as like during weekends when you probably don't have like a big test coming up, then I think it's totally doable. Um, yeah.
Stephen, I know you'd mentioned to me, sorry if you mentioned this in your earlier comments, but when you and I were talking, you actually took a semester off, right? In the program because you wanted to do some traveling. So you took a semester off and were able to do that, and then you kind of you came back and jumped right in where you left off, right?
Absolutely. So yeah, I took off a semester in the middle of my program um, to do some international traveling, and I thought that was awesome. I could do that. That SDSU was like super cool about that. I didn't even have to like get anyone's permission or anything. You can just take off a semester. I believe even 2 semesters anytime you want during the program, and you don't really need any permission. So that was like part of what we were all talking about at the beginning about how the program is very flexible. They want you to succeed. They want to give you slack if you need to take off a semester, go do it. If you need extra time on a project, most of the professors are very accommodating with that. And so that was one of my favorite things about the program, the flexibility.
Great. Okay, as we're wrapping up, maybe last question. I feel like you guys have given a lot of great advice throughout the entire discussion, but any final words, any advice that you would give to someone that is on the other side of this and trying to figure out if this is something they want to do?
Yeah, I would say, I think, like I said, the reason why SDSU, I picked it was specifically for the faculty, the projects, the flexibility. So I think if you really, really want to get an MBA and it's something you're considering, like SDSU is a great choice where you're going to learn a lot. You're going to be put into situations where you're going to really have to critically think and do a lot of problem solving, and it is in a very friendly environment to be doing those problem solving. So I think it's definitely a great opportunity. I felt like it was very valuable as far as the different variety of classes that you got to take, because you learn a lot about yourself, a lot about things that you can apply to the workplace as well. So I definitely think that the number one, though, is time management, and I think you'll learn it first semester, definitely. So,
Any last words of advice?
I would say if you're on the fence, just do it because like I said, you could be looking back on this in 3, 4 years and been like, I should have done that. And you would have already been graduated like a year ago. So that's my advice.
Yeah, I agree. I was actually on the fence for years, and I thought it was very beneficial for me to go back. And don't let the application process intimidate you. You can do it. I promise. It's not as hard as it seems. Just take your time with it. Do it early, and you'll be fine. Um, and yeah, just really take a look at the programs, take a look at the different classes, really see what resonates with you most. And it's okay if you have work experience or you don't. You'll definitely gain a lot of experience here.
Awesome. A huge thank you to each of you, our alumni panelists, for sharing your insights. That was a really great discussion, and we hope that for all of you tuning in, that it gives you a clearer picture of what the Fowler MBA experience is and how it might fit into your career goals. Um, if anyone still has additional questions, please don't reach out, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. Um, the email address that you can reach our graduate programs team is gradbusiness@sdsu.edu. That information is also on our website, business.sdsu.edu. And then a final reminder that the application deadline for the fall 2025 admission cycle is April 1st. So right around the corner. So if you're thinking about it, now is the time to jump on that application and to make sure you get it in before the deadline. Other than that, again, thanks everybody for joining us and have a great rest of your day.